Okay, in this video I just want to give you a quick overview of the parent letters. These are essentially a cover sheet that is sent home with all of the assessments that breaks everything down. So this is actually a real parent letter or a cover sheet from a real assessment. I just scratched out all the names so we can't tell who it belongs to, but this one's a good balance and has a few things I want to point out. So first, a quick overview. You can see that in the upper left hand side we have the subject, and the student's name would be right here. In the upper right we have the module that it is. So we can tell it's the math mid-module 1 assessment. It has the date, and then right in here and in here we have some general overall information. I'll talk about that in a second. Next, for this particular test, we have these different areas right here, and we broke these areas down into the different problems. So we have problem 1A, problem 1B, problem 2, and problem 3. And then below, and right here, we have the standards, and then below we actually have, these are the actual responses. So there's a few important things about these cover sheets that are worth knowing. The first are that, really the main one is that this overall score up here, this whole bar graph up here, and this overall score right here is really to just almost be completely ignored, because we are not using this percentage, we are not going off this 10 out of 12 points. That is completely irrelevant for us. Because we do standards-based grading. So really what we're looking at is this info down here. And this info down here is what is actually on the report card. So one thing to keep in mind, especially if you're watching this video after you've received this actual assessment, is this is a mid-module assessment. So we can see that this student got a 3. Every question is rated on a scale of 1, 2, or 3. One means that they're not progressing towards proficiency, or they are really not making any progress. A 2 would mean that they are making progress, and a 3 means that they have mastered that standard. So you can actually tell over here, even though these problems were missed, they're in like the red zone, they are 2 out of 3. So that the student is showing progress towards mastering these problems, even though they didn't get them totally correct. What we can see, though, is that with this first standard right here, they have mastered that standard. So on the report card, it will actually say, standard, and then it would say CCSS, etc., RP3, and it'll have a description, and they would get a 3 on their report card. Now, on these down here, they would receive these would probably both be 2s on the report card, just based off of the number that they've gotten correct. This is showing that they're not quite there with these standards, but they're getting there. So really what we care about are these standards. It's great to know that this student got 83% correct. That's a real positive note, but practically there's a whole 17% in here that this student is struggling to understand, and that's what we want to address. And the nice thing about standards-based grading is that we can actually not only break that down by the problems, but we can see that I aligned these problems in this program, Illuminate Our Gradebook, that prints these sheets out, and I know that we really need to work with this student on these 2 standards in particular. Now, that might be something as simple as writing your answer as a sentence, which we may have just forgotten to do, which would be an easy thing to correct, or it could be that just a more drastic kind of mistake that we're making that we really need to spend a little bit more time on. But the great thing is that we actually know what we need to work on versus just a certain number of problems. What do those problems actually go through? It's not a mystery. We know that these descriptions right here, that's what we want to focus on moving forward. I think that's definitely enough for this one. So I do want to show an example of the science parent letter, because there are a few differences. So let's move over to that one. This is the science cover sheet. You can tell when you look around, everything's basically the same. There are a few differences on this particular one. This was a multiple choice test. A lot of it was. So down here, we can actually see the students' correct answers, the students' incorrect answers, and down here, it's kind of hard to read these descriptions with all the names blurred out. But if we zoom in a little closer, we can see down here, this actually shows this would be question 12, question 4, and question 8, and it shows that they got a 2 out of 3 on it, a 3 out of 3, and a 3 out of 3 on those questions. These were not multiple choice questions. These were response questions. So ask a question, write a sentence to describe it, that type of thing. But one of the important things about these science ones are that we don't have science standards. There are not Common Core science standards yet. So although we broke them down into areas, and these are kind of substitutes for the standards that we see on the math, and this still is something that we make ourselves, but it helps us to identify more of the area that they might be struggling in. So instead of just breaking down into questions, we can actually look at, this student did really great at the Earth system and the Earth surface. They did great at the models of maps and Earth, but we might need to help them out with understanding some aspects of Earth's interior, because they got these almost perfect, but they actually really struggled with this area. So again, even though we have an 84% correct, what is that 16% that they're missing? Well, we can actually focus in on Earth's interior, because now we have a better idea of kind of how to help the student moving forward. So I hope that not just gives you maybe a little bit better understanding and appreciation of the standards-based grading, but kind of helps you out in understanding these sheets that will come home. So hope it helps.